So as we learn now more about the two suspects, brothers, killed at the end of the hostage situation outside Paris, an article published here in the United States 10 years ago raised a red flag about one of those brothers. The story was in the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, and it focused on Cherif Kouachi. His lawyer telling our next guest that Kouachi was about to head to Iraq to carry out jihad when he was arrested by French police. Mark Hauser is that former investigative reporter for the Tribune-Review and my guest today. 10 years ago, Mark, you were covering a story about terrorism in France, and this guy's name came up.
That's right, Gretchen. Back in 2005, I spent a month in Europe. I went to several countries, and I was looking at how different countries there in the EU were dealing with the threat of terrorism, and also how they were working on integrating their large Muslim minorities. And Cherif Kouachi was one of the cases that I looked at. I mean, he'd been arrested already. I didn't discover him, but I reported on the fact that he was facing charges of being part of a terrorist network, some of whose members had already been in Iraq fighting American soldiers.
All right, that's 10 years ago. We know that they sort of were in and out of trouble and prison and then back out on the streets. What is your assessment of the differences between how France tries to tag and continue to monitor these terrorists in their country versus maybe what's happening here at home?
Well, I would say that it was a clear difference, I think, between how European authorities deal with terrorism threats and how American authorities do. And this was brought up by not only French officials, but also Dutch officials, Spanish officials I talked to, that the focus was, they had excellent investigative powers and track record, and they clearly caught this guy. The focus seemed to be more on breaking up plots and, breaking up networks and investigating, and the focus was less on getting convictions and certainly less on long sentences. So, for instance, Cherif Kouachi, as we know, was convicted of being a member of a terrorist group, and he was given a 3-year sentence for that. And I don't think he served any time in jail after his trial because of the fact that he had time served.
Right,
and
a year
also,
and a half. A year and a half, and then he was out. So
right.
That would he probably would have more, well, maybe would have had a more stringent sentence here in the United States. I want to bring you to this. I want to bring you to this.
I was just going to say, go ahead, Gretchen, sorry.
Sorry to cut you out. Finish your thought, and then I'll bring you to the last thing.
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder, I mean, we know the danger of going too far in trying to prevent terrorism. And we've seen the torture report, and we've seen NSA snooping, and we understand all that problem. But at the same time, there's a delicate balance that societies have to deal with, and that's what I talked with a lot of these authorities about. I mean, they have to realize that they had in their custody, as a convicted terrorist, the guy who apparently now is, well, not apparently, clearly has killed a dozen people.
Before I let you go, I know there was an eerie thing that you think about often that had to do with his attorney. What was it?
Right. I didn't meet Cherif Kouachi. I met his defense attorney, and when we went into his office, he had created, it's a decoration in his office, it was a painting he'd made that showed a bunch of crocodiles attacking a crucifix. And I asked him what that was about, and he said it was meant to symbolize the end of Western civilization and Armageddon. And I asked him if he was in favor of that, and he said, of course not. But I'm afraid of Armageddon and the end of society as everyone else is. But we have to, we have to follow our liberal democratic traditions. We can't forget the laws that we have to follow.
Very, very interesting, and maybe
it was like
forewarning
a Charlie
of
Hebdo
what we're seeing today. Yeah, no doubt. All right, thank you so much, Mark, for bringing your report 10 years ago to our attention. Well, coming up on The Real Story, the trail of terror that has France on edge and is raising concerns here. The connection between one of the terrorists responsible for the Paris massacre